I'm the boss, and I'm not money.
What is up, everybody? It's Predator117 here, and today I am going to bring you something a little bit different. So, there's a common thing going around today: Warframe versus Destiny, why Warframe is better than Destiny, switch over to Warframe, Warframe's better than Destiny, and I'm not seeing a lot of videos for Destiny, and I think a lot of people would say that that is because of the fact that Destiny, it's very difficult to make an argument for it, but today I'm going to point out the pros and cons of both games, and I'm going to try to make an argument for Destiny today, and perhaps convince you guys to give Destiny another shot. Now, let's start off with just plain old Warframe. Let's point out the pros of Warframe. Well, there's one very big pro. It's free. Now, obviously, people are going to look at this game and they're going to think, oh, well, it's a free game, and it's going to be awesome, right? Or it's just going to be another bad free game. Well, they'd be wrong. It is a great game, and it is free, and that definitely does win Warframe a decent amount of points. Another thing about Warframe that is a pro, and let's just list these off. There's more classes in Warframe. There's more weapons in Warframe. There's more content, and there's more variety. Now, these are five very big arguments as to why Warframe beats Destiny out. But a lot of people, what they do is they fail to realize that the cons of Warframe are also fairly strong as well. And a lot of people don't realize that Warframe is a major play-to-win or pay-to-win game. And here's the reason. So the concept of a pay-to-win game, I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with it, and majority of the time, when you pay money to a developer that's not the actual game itself, normally what it is it's aesthetic. It doesn't affect gameplay, but this is not what happens in the case of Warframe. And Warframe's a lot like Battlefield in this sense. When you pay money to the developer, you can gain something called Platinum, and Platinum can allow you to buy more Warframes, buy weapons, all that fun stuff. And then you also have Prime Access, which is like $79, I believe. And basically what Prime Access does is it gives you the Prime Warframe, gives you a couple of Prime weapons and a little bit of Glimmer. And this really is a big turnoff when it comes to Warframe. And that's because you could have one person putting in a lot of time and effort into this game. And yes, you could argue that you don't have to pay this money to get the same stuff, but you have this one person over here putting in all this time and effort, and then you have another person over here, I'll just pay a couple bucks, and then boom, they get the exact same gear without the time and effort and just get the stuff. Done deal. And you can also have someone who's brand new to the game. They're trying to put in the effort without paying the money, and then you can have someone who buys something, and then boom, they're better than that person automatically, and it actually affects the gameplay. And that's just a major turnoff for me. Like, if they had made it purely cosmetic, that would have been fine, but they didn't. They made it so that it did affect the gameplay, and that makes Warframe a very big pay-to-win game. Now, one could argue that yes, you could, in theory, well, actually, yeah, no, you could, just play the game a lot and get the exact same gear, and that is true. But that's where my next turn off mostly comes. My next point that's a con. Warframe requires a lot, and I mean a lot of time. It requires hours, even days of time to get what you would like to get. And that's mostly due to the fact that the drop rates for some specific Warframes and weapons can be very low. And also, they are only available on certain missions in certain areas and all that fun stuff. And it can make Warframe a very tedious game. And I can tell you out of experience, I'm not one to like games that are tedious. And that's a major con for Warframe as well. So that's already two very big bad sides of Warframe: the pay to win and the tediousness of it, and the amount of time and effort you have to put into it. Now, a lot of people like farming. They like putting in that big amount of time and effort, and that's good for you. That's good for you. Totally go do that if you wish to do that. But I can tell you that as someone who's still in school and who has a part-time job as well, time is something I often don't have. So I'm not going to be able to get the stuff I want for weeks on end unless I get lucky as hell and get it to drop. I'm not going to get the stuff I want, and I'm not going to be as good because I don't have the time to put into the game. And those are two very major downsides of Warframe. The other thing is about Warframe, and that's another downside, this is going to be the last one, there's really no major tutorial. There's a basic, pick up this weapon, you press this button to melee. You press this button to shoot, this weapon does that. That's about it. That's literally all it does. And then it gives you a brief introduction on the modding system, but there's so much more into the modding system, and it doesn't tell you how to do it. So, the lack of this tutorial can make the game extremely confusing for people in the get-go. And they could be doing something completely wrong, and it'll affect how they play the game, and then they're going to have to learn and put in some more time, and they're going to have to learn how to do it. And it could just be very annoying. Now let's get over to Destiny, and I'm going to try to keep this video nice and short. Over on Destiny, the game has some major cons. There's not a lot of content for what you pay for the game. And the 2 DLCs so far have been utterly worthless. Like, they barely give you anything. And it can be very disappointing to a lot of people who like this game, such as me. And, you know, that's just how it is. Another thing that's downside about Destiny is the fact that, yes, it does have farming, but nowhere near the amount that Warframe does. But yes, it does have farming, and that can be another turnoff for people for Destiny. Most of the reason, though, that I find a lot of people leaving Destiny is the main idea of these DLCs. The fact that they haven't been worth it, and the fact that people have been putting a lot of money into the game and not getting the content that they want. And this is really only the major flaw that I can find with Destiny. And, you know, it's people are trying to make it out as if it's a terrible game. And granted, it is a major flaw, and Bungie has not really done much to fix it except talk about releasing this new Forsaken DLC that will be coming out. Hopefully it'll be great, but this is really the only major flaw that I can find with Destiny at the time, is the lack of content and the price for the game. And it's a big flaw. Granted, it's a big flaw, but it is it's like one major flaw. The rest of the flaws can be due with balancing issues. You know, Graviton Lance is really powerful right now. And that's just what happens in games in general. But the lack of content is the only major flaw I can find with Destiny. And I can name so many good things about Destiny. For example, let's use Warframe as an example. Warframe has a PvP. Warframe does have PvP. And in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's boring. Like, you go in, and if you're just starting out, or if you don't have the best gear, you're almost guaranteed to lose. Also, the thing about Warframe's PvP is it's way less developed, and I understand Warframe's focus is not PvP, it's PvE, but it's way less developed, and as a person who really loves PvP, that really does, it's a turnoff for me. Another thing that Destiny has is it has good PvP. You know, in my opinion, it has great PvP. PvP is fun, it's for the most part balanced. For the most part, granted, there are a couple weapons that are really ridiculously strong, for example, the Crimson, which is what I'm using right now. But that's really about... I'm big about the PvP. Another thing about Destiny is it's very fun when you do get higher tier to do raids, to do all the higher tier, you know, missions and stuff like that. And, you know, yes, you do have to repeat them, but in my experience, nowhere near as much as in Warframe. You do have to repeat missions to get certain gear, but it's nowhere near the amount of farming you have to do for Warframe. And another thing for Destiny is the fact that the paying aspect, the in-game purchases, the aspect of that is that it's purely cosmetic. It does not affect how you play the game at all. And that's a major thing when it comes to making an argument for a game. It's not a pay-to-win game unless you count DLCs as pay-to-win. And that's basically about it. Another good part about Destiny is the fact that it's more simplistic. It gives you... It's got 3 classes versus all the different Warframes, which could be used as an argument for Warframe, but for some people, simplicity is better. because it's easier to understand, it's easier to get good at certain times, and it's all around easier to get into the game, if I may say. It's easier to get into the idea of all the complexities of the game. And another thing about Destiny is it takes nowhere near the amount of time that Warframe does. And you could easily count the amount of time you have to wait for things to be built in Warframe as time, because that's just stupid. If you're gonna farm for this stuff, I think they should not have you have to build it. I think they should have you be able to just have it. You know, you put it in the maker thingamajig, I forgot what it's called. You put it in there, and it makes it, and then you're done. You have the part, or you have the Warframe part that you need, you have the weapon part you need. There, done. But instead they have you wait, and you have to wait for days, and sometimes a week I've had to wait for certain things to be done building. And that kind of brings in like a Clash of Clans type aspect to it, and it can get very annoying very fast. So, as a conclusive sentence, or a conclusive phrase, Warframe benefits someone with a lot more time. If you have the time, I definitely suggest Warframe if you do have the time. Because it is a fun game, it's free, and it's got a lot of content. It can get old very fast, which is what really got me out of the game, is the fact that it did get old. But that's really the only major thing about the game, is if you have the time, you can go play the game Warframe. It's a good game. I'm not dissing on it at all. I'm just trying to point out that there's bad sides to Warframe that a lot of people fail to realize. And Destiny, if you have the money, and if you're a large enough fan like me, definitely play Destiny. It's your game. You can do what you want with the game, and you know, it's fun. It lasts, at least for me and a lot of other people. It lasts. The PvP's well made. I love the PvP, and go play Destiny if you have the money. So, as a conclusive phrase, Warframe benefits those with more time, easily. And Destiny benefits those who have more money and less time. And that's just going to be my conclusive argument today. And I'm not making this video to diss on Warframe at all. And I'm not making this video to make it seem like Destiny's this god of a game. I'm making this video because I'm seeing a very high amount of videos out there as to why Warframe easily outclasses Destiny. And if you do not agree with me, please be respectful about it, but please leave a comment in the comment section. If you do not agree with me, if you want to point something out, I am open to discussion. Please do. And I love discussing things like this with people, because then it's called compromise. And then that way we can come to a conclusive agreement. But if you see something you don't agree with, or if something in my facts is not right that you see is has an issue, then definitely please leave it in the comment section. Please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Have a great day.
Everything's alright.